Well, maybe this is a good time to begin. I think I'm gonna uh, keep, keep your um, microphones off for a moment, and we're gonna do a little bit of a somatic movement warm up. So if you would, just take whatever kind of breath you want, and I need to stretch, just some kind of movement that feels just right for you for this moment. And then when that kind of yawn settles, just let your eyelids close for just a moment. And of course, feel free now and all the way through this, because I might forget to do movement breaks. If you need to get up, turn around, stretch, wiggle, scream, twist, whatever, please feel free to do that, laugh. And just notice the pressure of your feet on the ground, and have the idea that the ground is supportive of you at this moment. The earth meets you wherever you are. And the place where you're sitting, your sit bones, the top of your thighs, perhaps your back, I don't know what kind of chair you're on. You can feel the meeting of your body and the support that exists for you right now. And just notice how your breath moves through your body, where it moves easily, and where you might allow a little more room. And then I'd like you to have the idea that you could bring a color of healing or knowing into your body or onto the screen of your mind. And let yourself feel or sense or know what you would like from today. A word or a movement. And you can say that when it comes to you, let yourself just put that in the space, the movement and the word that contains how you would like to feel during the day or after our time together. Connection. Connection. And then allow into your consciousness a word or a movement that will support that aspiration, and therefore can also transform or shift any impediment to how you'd like to feel during the course of the day or at the end of this conversation. And again, allow a word and a movement to embody that image or word or feeling of what will support you. The greater aspect, the greater, the context of this material. And then return to the first movement and word, and let yourself say that. And when you're ready, let your eyes just open so that you're expressing that in the presence of others. You can see what others are containing and moving, and you can join with them, and you can send yours to them and them to yours. Connection, 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 And just seeing with your heart for a moment before we move in, move out. And I'm nice to see you all. Hi, Nina. All right. Great. So let's unmute for one moment. And in case we don't know everybody, if you would just call out, let's unmute for a second or 60 seconds and just call out where you're from. I'm from Seattle. We'll have people who speak at the same time as me.
Saskatoon, Canada.
Toronto, Canada.
Oxford, Mississippi.
Minneapolis,
Denver, Colorado.
Philadelphia.
New York.
Vancouver. Geneva, New York.
Geneva.
New York.
Manhattan.
Muscadabat Harbor, Nova Scotia.
Hard to say. Okay.
Beaumont, California.
Arlington, Massachusetts.
Peonia, New Jersey.
Ashland, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia.
Oh.
Jersey City, New Jersey.
Oh. All right. So let's mute yourself, but whenever you feel like you need to speak up, you can unmute and say, I'd like to speak. I mean, that's I think we're all in one screen, which is great. Because you can also wave a hand. And Curtis, will you help me out on this in terms of calling people in case I miss out? Absolutely. So the plan I came with for today is to spend the first maybe 30 minutes or so related to nuts and bolts, which I realize is actually more than Zoom. So we might take a little more time with it. Then if it feels right for the group to move on, I have some questions that relate to the philosophy. Let me get my notes here. Philosophy and pedagogy, which might include things like, platforms that you put your materials on. And for some of that, we might go into 2 or 3 breakout rooms so we can have a more intimate conversation. But I'm also wanting your suggestions. It's might be a small enough group that we can dialogue here, but I want people to feel like they have an opportunity to speak as much as they want and ask questions of the group, because and that this was what kind of came to me in that little image that we just did, which is I'm really hoping that we draw on the wisdom of each other here. Many of you have experience and different layers of experience of putting classes forward, whether they're for practical classes or didactic classes, and those take, I think, very different kinds of preparation and different engagements with the computer. And in a big sense. So I want to make sure that you all have access to all the wisdom that is here already for people who've already been doing some of this work for a while, and then those of you who are newer to it. Any thoughts or comments about that? You can just unmute and speak up or make a suggestion. Okay, so did you have something, Jennifer? No, okay. Right, and if you stretch and I call on you because you're stretching, just say, I'm just stretching. So previous to this, one of the Natashas, I didn't pay attention to last name, sent out some of Karen's India, and whatever it is, let's see, the National Education Dance Association's webinar on using Zoom. And so many people have already looked at that. So I'm going to hope that that's kind of a given. And Karen said she had material to add to it. And so I asked her if she would please do that, and she is going to. So we're going to start with Karen Bradley, adding on to what she already presented. And I know many of you have, again, different layers of information related to Zoom for different kinds of classes. So there will be a time when this is done to chime in and or questions. So that's where we'll begin. Ms. Karen, thank you.
Thanks, and it's great to see everybody. So when I did that webinar, it was back at the beginning. And I think that we've all learned a lot since then. But I did it, I was asked to do it because I've been teaching on Zoom for a while. When I was the graduate program at the University of Maryland, lots of times we'd be snowed out or tornadoed out or hurricaned out. And so I was already familiar with this idea of working online. I had taught a course for NDEO very early on as well. Are you
Wait,
having
just a
trouble
sec.
hearing? Are you having
Ted?
trouble?
Yeah, Ted. Unmute yourself.
Ted,
Ted.
you're muted.
Ted, unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry. We have our volume up all the way and we cannot hear you very well. Can you increase your volume, please?
I cannot increase mine, but give me the permission to share the screen. I can share the computer sound, a little Zoom
Oh,
tip,
okay.
but I don't know if I can share the screen. Let me see.
Tara, you have to make her a co-host.
No, I can do it.
Okay, Curtis is doing all that. Good. She
All
just
right,
did
is this
that.
better? You hear me better now? Okay. It's the magic of Zoom. We've all learned a lot. Anyway, my point here is that a lot has changed since then. So I am about to put in 3 really great resources into the chat. So everybody brace yourselves, get ready, because these people are going to be much more helpful than I will be. So the first is a PDF that talks about the audio for Zoom. The second is a video. The second 2 are videos by Jonathan Sue, who was a student of ours at University of Maryland. And these are really, really clear videos.
Yeah, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. Yes.
Yes. So pretty much everything that you need to know about doing Zoom technologically is available. Jonathan has a whole bunch of other videos as well, and they're very clear. And you get to see him dance, which is a treat. So, I'm just going to say that. The thing that I really want to share with us and maybe open a discussion about is why we're using Zoom and some of the socio-political aspects of Zoom that we've all probably learned bits and pieces about it for ourselves. One of the things that I emphasize in that NDEO webinar, and it's become even more true, if you will. Zoom and all of these tools were made for collaborative learning. They were not designed to present our choreography. They weren't designed for us to do dance therapy or somatics practice. Those protocols that we have in the studio or in the clinical office are very difficult to translate directly to these platforms. So what I would like to open us up to is a conversation or ideas or suggestions, and you can write these in the chat or you can speak them. I'll stop sharing my sound so that other people can speak. But what are some of the things that you've learned about engagement and about embodiment online? And I'll just add to that at LIMS, we are engaging with a new platform, not a new platform, it's new to us, that our online classes are going to be using, and it's called Canoe, K-A-N-N-U, and it's just a learning management system. It's like Canvas or Blackboard or like those, but it's much prettier and it's much more user-friendly. And we are working on how to teach embodied practices online using this particular platform and Zoom, or anything else that comes along that looks interesting and possible. So the question, the overarching question here is, how can we as teachers and learners stay embodied in this particular genre, in this particular technological setting? How can we foster embodied learning and social interaction and connection, building community in this as well? So I'm going to stop sharing the sound so that everybody else can participate in this. And I would just say, raise your hand or type into the chat just some insights that you've had or some ideas that you've had about ways that we can really start to bring embodied practices into the Zoom world in a socially just way.
Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just going to share with embodiment from the experience I had teaching, from March on, and also from my experience taking classes. I've been taking Zoom on, or yoga on Zoom, and Alexandra Bellar's class. As far as embodiment goes, I think what really helps is actually getting people away from their screens and encouraging and guiding them verbally movement in their own time and space, so that they are in their bodies and they're not having to worry about looking at a screen.
I think that my verbal description skills have increased significantly because of exactly that.
Yeah. Karen, can you say how Canoe, for example, is different from Zoom? Can you give an example of a different platform?
Zoom is a piece of technology that you can use for this. Canoe is the learning management system.
Oh,
so
okay.
Canoe is where we would put the videos that we have from Zoom. This is where we would track student progress.
Okay.
So it's not happening through email. It's for
Okay.
some other place that nobody will find again.
All right.
You can look at, it's, I'll put the link here. This is the company that we're using and working with. Any other thoughts or ideas?
Well, I'd like to add that I have been surprised, and this happened recently, that when I was working with, it was a one-on-one situation, so it's not a class situation, and it was supposed to be Pilates, but the person was having an emotional situation. And I was surprised at how much non-verbal, I might say countertransference, or how much I could feel of this person's situation in my own body when I was like this, looking at her, because I was staying as open as I could, and I have to open in a different way when I'm dealing with the screen. But I was surprised at the amount of information that I was able to experience. So, and I agree that it's important to really develop the verbal skills strongly enough so that you can cue without people having to look at the screen. It's really important. Yeah.
One of the big questions I have is, I feel like I was able to have connection with what I did because I already knew the students live.
Yes.
Like I already had a relationship with them. I already had other classes with them, and the online classes I'm taking, I know the people too, you know. And what I'm wondering about is how do you create that connection with a brand new person? And I don't have an answer, but that's something I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Someone else is
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And also, people who are teaching younger people, like high school age or below. One of the people that has been talking with us has said it was so much easier when there were two sisters in the room because they could cue each other. Whereas the students that were, the young students that were alone in their space really had a very difficult time being alone. I mean, we're social learners, right?
I just wanted to say there's a catch-22. Like, I'm fortunate, I've been on sabbatical. My sabbatical's now over, so I didn't have to do the end of course online teaching. However, I was teaching some gyrokinesis classes online to some fellow students and friends. There's a catch-22 to being, because it's true, my verbal cueing has gotten much stronger. But then there's this idea of allowing time for embodiment and not always having to process all of this verbally, but allowing time to give them that moment to be in their body. And that's one thing I've struggled with, finding that balance between the verbal and the nonverbal. Where I've suffered a lot is because I usually can only see me. It's hard to engage them because you have to give yourself the full body platform in order for them to see you move your body. So you can't really be witnessing what they're doing, which has been a struggle, obviously. I don't know where I'm going with this comment, but that's, I think, what I wanted to express. And then I started thinking about other ways of like cueing people and how I might do that in the future, and whether I might record. Sounds, I don't know, so odd, but will I maybe record myself doing moments and then having my students observe that while I'm watching them? So it gives me an ability to be able to cue them.
The challenge there is that it's very difficult to show video through Zoom.
Yeah, interesting.
You have to send them the link ahead of time, and then you have to say, go watch this. So it's one of the challenges of Zoom. I've yet to see that problem solved.
I use props a lot, and sometimes I use props not to create a load, but proprioception. And it could be, you know, especially since a lot of my clients don't have a lot of props. It could be a scarf, but, you know, just, oh, how does this scarf feel on your back of your neck? How does your ribs feel on the neck? And then, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's interesting because I record my videos. I'm also learning how I teach, and sometimes I need to slow down. I sometimes need to show it better and really let them see it. And then I go to a gallery view and then let them experience it. And they might do it not in the same choreography. They might do it wrong, but I have to let that happen. And I've been working with a teacher privately, and he's using like yoga straps and whatever. And he's made adjustments to my body that has been so profound, that's better than when I worked with somebody hands-on. So I think it can be done. You just have to use your eyes differently. And with him, as Jean-Claude was, we're changing the camera. So that's one thing that's hard. A lot of my clients have trouble changing the camera. So that's the other issue. And then I send the video to them so they can re-experience it. And I always start the session, how are you? And then I always have a theme. and then I end the session, and then I talk to them, how was it different? What did you experience? Do you have questions? And it's very profound. I mean, I really have heard some really incredible information and questions about their practice.
What do you mean by changing the camera?
So for instance, here I am, I'm sitting, you know, we do it with an iPad, but we would look it down, and, or if I have to, he wants to see me, you know, I have to change here. Because people are, you know, sometimes I'm having them sit, sometimes I'm having them standing or lying down. And so they have to get used to how they change the camera so I can see them. The other thing I do is I have everything on a big TV, which gives me a bigger gallery view of you guys. So that helps tremendously. Fortunately, my brother is a video person. We're also going to look into having switches to change right away from you know, if I want to just zoom on me, or do I want to have a gallery view? And so that's what I'm working on to help me.
That video from Jonathan Sue, the second one, really goes into this, the choices that we have, and they are expensive. I will share that I finally said to my husband, we need a large screen TV. He's been asking for one for years, and he's now making fun of me because he wanted it to watch sports, and there aren't any sports now, so.
But you know, all this is a large, and then you just need an HDMI cable to go into the your computer, so that happens. I'm doing it from a computer. I do shoot other videos for through the iPad and another camera for the final edit, what I send to them. So.
I want to share, I took a theater online class, and this was for like theater movement class as far as creating ensemble and community. Now, I haven't tried this yet, but one of the suggestions that was given in that session was have everybody wear the same color, like you have a class uniform that people are putting on their uniform to go to class, so that it's like a special thing, and they suggested black, but you know, just like I'm getting into class now and I'm putting on these clothing and that brings me into class, and to play with the camera and have everybody do like entrances into the space, into their square. And then they talked about creating a special movement that everybody does together at the end before you leave the meeting. So I haven't tried those things yet, but they sound like they would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Audrey posted something, strengthening the inner witness, speaking from the permit moment, and Hillary wanted to know more about that, I think. So Audrey, are you able to unmute? Is she still here? She's on the phone. All right, well, we'll see if she can get out. One of the things that I've been doing also is I send everybody something ahead of time to prepare them, a quote or an idea or something. And mostly I'm teaching older people online. And so I don't think that they have the clothing choices to come in with the same color, but they do come in. We do take a couple of minutes to check in with each other. And these are people who do not live near each other. Some of them are in the United States, some of them are in Canada, some of them are my neighbors down the road. And so taking that moment to check in, they're getting to know each other, first of all. And secondly, having them use a lot more self-touch, because these are older people who are not used to touching themselves very much, but they are often people who live alone. And so today we got as far as putting our fingers on the pubic arch and the coccyx and moving front and back from the pelvic floor, and they had a ball, and then we danced. So I'm just offering that, these kinds of things can really help. And I told them they could, turn off their video camera if they didn't want to be seen, but nobody did. At this point, everybody's having too good a time and they like each other. And somebody, I think in the last one, suggested, and I've been doing this, that you take your hands and you put them around your square. Was that you, Emma? I don't know, might have been you, I don't know.
No, but I've done that. It's really good.
So you have a sense of who's on either side of you, even though they don't know. And I've also done movement choirs online, Zoom movement choirs. I told everybody the last time about doing a Zoom stroll where, people are moving on either side, and then you call out two people's names and they dance together across the screen, watching each other. And that was really fun. That's really good. And so at the end of that, people were very connected with each other and laughing and smiling. The term for which it was a sociological term. I may have mentioned it the last time we talked. Collective effervescence. You can look it up. Collective effervescence is that moment when everybody connects with each other and everybody just smiles. It's just natural. It's at the neurological level. And it's about socially engaging, it's about synchrony, it's about all those things. But it's every class that has a collective effervescent moment is a positive.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Karen, if I may, do you know if Canoe has less security issues than Zoom? I ask because we just got we've got notification at my institution that there are real concerns about Zoom and privacy and security. So I'm kind of waiting to see what decision is handed down for the fall for teaching, but I haven't heard back yet. Thanks.
Canoe is not Zoom. It's not a platform like this. It is a repository. It's like an office space, okay? It's a very nice office space. And things are much more accessible than I found in Canvas or Blackboard or any of those others. As far as Zoom security goes, Zoom, of course, has been working overtime on this. And, the security issues that Zoom had, many of them have been fixed. Yeah, Google Meets, I know, Jen, I hate it. It doesn't have the robustness of Zoom. And same thing, we've also been looking at Microsoft Teams is another place that we can look at. But whatever we decide to use for the courses that LIMS is teaching, whether it's Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams or any of them, they're going to have similar issues, because if you give out your access and you don't have a two-step entry, it's very easy for people to come in and wreak havoc with it. I tend not to use my private Zoom account for anything other than one-on-ones because I don't want it shared. I don't want it out there, right? So I think you also have to change your password regularly. I think that is helpful too. But as far as I can tell, Zoom is the most robust of these platforms, the most consistent, and the ones where they're paying the most attention to security because of the breaches that have happened. And I don't know if you know what those are, but people who have nothing better to do with their lives than to hack into Zoom meetings and write screeds across the top or, into the chat or say hateful things, So Zoom has given much more control and much less access up front. Now that said, if you post your Zoom class on YouTube, you've got some security issues, right? So, We've been using a private Vimeo group with only a private link, so it doesn't even appear in a search.
Right, okay. Kind of nuts and bolts-ish concerns or sharings that people have. I know that there's a real big, I would imagine there's a really big difference between classes that are practice classes or movement classes, and then didactic with movement, and then classes that are more personal, classes that are less personal, classes that are more skill-based, and then classes that are creative-based. Is there anyone, just in terms of nuts and bolts around that anyone wonders about, or you have something you'd like to share, or something that worked really well for you or didn't?
I have something of what not to do. So I was using FaceTime, leading a group with people who have dementia, who are in an assisted living, and they were all in one space. So they didn't have individual iPads. I asked them to bring me from one person to another. And while we tested the sound and things like that beforehand, what I didn't know was that my voice was going to be echoed, which created a disturbance. So I thought it was my phone. And so I went to shut off my phone while being introduced to people with dementia, and slid across the wrong thing. So I got the police, who wanted to know where I was located. And I'm trying to communicate with people with dementia who are distressed, and the police are on the phone. So don't do that. That's a suggestion.
Oh.
And also to say that it's a very difficult trying to do this online. I can do nothing more really than teach or get them to do something. I'm not really teaching. Get them to do something, and mostly they don't follow directions. I can't get them to do something so far that's interactive with me. I don't know if that's because they see a screen and it's like a TV set. And so who talks to a TV set? Crazy people. I'm not going to do that. So I don't know if that's the reason, or I don't know, but I'm not able to get the kind of communication, interaction between them and me, between them and each other. They followed staff who were in the space one time, and then the next time they didn't. So challenges.
I was going to share a real nuts and bolts thing. So I volunteered to teach a Friday afternoon 80s aerobics class, which was actually kind of fun. So, we figured out how to share the music and all that kind of stuff. But then we found I had to wear a headset, because as I moved further away from the computer, they couldn't hear me over the music. So I found that this headset in particular, as opposed to the little pods, stayed in my ears better, because as I was sweating and whatever, so these were really secure, and they could hear me speaking and hear the music at the same time.
In Jonathan's video on audio, he recommends those exact same, pretty much that set. Looks exactly like what he's got in the video.
Right. What is that called again, Jennifer?
These particular ones, it says Let's Calm on the side, but I think if you just look up on Amazon earplugs, there's all, different brands of this kind of thing. Here's Hillary.
Oh.
Is Audrey here yet? Audrey? We can't hear you. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Right.
Oh, she has two.
Yeah, she's there twice.
Yeah. Anyone else in this area? I'm curious, how many people are teaching group, practice classes that involve movement practice? mean, I'm doing Pilates. I'm doing one-on-one, so. All right. And then how many people are doing work that's, more emotion-based or that's more personal? Okay, maybe a little bit.
I'm doing both, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then how many people are having to do classes that are about, didactic, where you have like, information, so it's almost like lecture in part with some experiential stuff? So just 2 or 3, okay. And then we have some in the dance world and then some in the dance therapy world, I guess. Is there any sort of questions you have that you'd like to bring to the group just about those in terms of the practicality aspect? That's what we're kind of in right now, practicalities. Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
a psychotherapist, and I have to have privacy platforms. So I tried Inkblot. I'm using DoxyMe right now. And I have another program. It's called Jane. It's a psychotherapy app, but it's actually physiotherapists actually. And so it's also got privacy on it, but really good video capabilities. And you can pay more or you can have it free. DoxyMe you can do free. But then if you want other bells and whistles like booking systems and other things, they'll give you better, and you get better camera quality. But I do a lot of, can you see me, my face? So I'm also a craniosacral therapist, and I did a course right off the top with one of my teachers at the Upledger Institute. She ran a 30-hour online how to do distance work with people, and a lot of it was around being super centered yourself, and so being open and reaching for the other person from a very centered, connected, energetic place. It was a really interesting, being grounded in Phil, and then in your own body, you're looking for pings in yourself from your client across the, her whole thing is, well, thoughts are energy, feelings are energy. What do you feel in yourself? And you'll notice what are the pings that happen in you that you can ask of them. And it also is that slow down, put your foot on the brake. My process work, my methodology in psychotherapy is interpersonal neurobiology. So the biological imperative to connect, right? It's the tone of my voice is really, really important. Finding rhythm, and I'll find myself actually gently swaying in the horizontal plane, just doing figure of eights with people as I'm talking with them, leaning in maybe into one of the diagonals that will help feel the three-dimensional quality of me, even if it's not three-dimensional, because the two-dimensional screen is really hard. So I make sure I don't put my hands forward at people. So I try and get as much of my body as they can see as well. And I ask them, can you move back a little bit? Can you see me? And I'm always asking, can you see me? Can you hear? So the prosody in my voice, the tone, can you feel me reaching for you? Can you feel me seeing you or seeking you? Those are other really helpful ways of doing that connection with each other. So those are energetic ways. And can you feel me seeking? Can you feel me reaching for you? Yeah, and just I'm a very animated face anyway. So I make my animation in my face a little bit larger so people can, and I ask people to move with me. I breathe with them and have them breathe. I do a lot of shape flow breath work with my practice. So with new people, that's what's really helpful is the rhythm piece, and just in terms of like blend and meld, that's a cranial technique, blend and meld with the person, but I blend and meld energetically with them so that, and I'm always listening for the pings in me. And then I ask where are you feeling that in you? Or can you feel me with you in that place? Or if I have a ping in my chest or my arm or my back, I'll ask, hey, can you tell me anything that's going on in your right arm or your right back, leg, whatever. So I find the lab and language super, super helpful in terms of being descriptive and evoking people, clarity for people in movement as well. But mine is more emotionally based and pretty much in my near reach space. I have to work a lot in my near reach space. And I encourage people, you know, to be in their near to mid and then to stand up later on. And can you amplify the experience that we just had? So that's how I've been working. And I do a lot. Well, we were in shelter from March 14th to a couple of weeks ago. I've just started going back in, and I wear masks with my clients. I also have a shield, but the mask, you really have to make your face and your voice and tone and the whole shaping of my body to help people be in connection. That's what I've been doing. And by being in my shape online, that reads more than when I'm fully a little dynamic, more dynamic, but being aware of my space and shape as I'm moving. And also going online, we can't move very fast, right? Because then it's all the trace forms, right? So, as I say, I use I have private platforms because my college would not allow me to. I suppose if I'm just doing movement classes, but my intention is to do women's groups online. So this is really helpful to know, but I have to have a private platform. So
I will add to that the space harmony work is really helpful for people to be able to be present in their own space. And so, you know, introducing people to the fact that they have some choices within their own kinesphere. I think I may have mentioned this last time, but one of the things that I've been doing with people is having them walk around their space and find an object that's really meaningful that they haven't looked at lately or noticed lately, and then bring it back and then dance with it. That's your dance partner for 5 minutes. So it's a way of just having people feel ownership of the space that they've been in for months and probably have not appreciated lately.
I just want to add, Nadine, I'm happy to meet you. What I was feeling with you as you moved was that it's like turning up the volume on presence.
Yes.
Really, that from the inside, and that seems very important. And I could experience that in you, which felt great in my body. I felt like I could be with you as well.
Right. Yeah.
Tara, did you want to say something? I wondered if you wanted to say something. I thought you were going to say something before.
No, I was just swaying a little bit, but in regard to what Karen Bradley was just saying, back a few iterations ago, I put in a comment in the chat about how in the spring, I felt like I got more of a sense of the students I had seen in the classroom and studio, being with them in their space, and us all being together in our own spaces, but still being together in the class. So I think that touches also upon what Karen was saying about bringing in an object that connects you to your space, but also connects you spatially to others. So I was just resonating with that.
That's nice.
I think if we're, you know, either we're not all teaching Laban movement analysis or Laban Bartanieff movement studies, but I think that the construct of body, effort, shape, space, phrasing offers us a structure to wander through as needed with the people that we're working with. So we all have skills from other modalities as well that we're working with, but the map, if you will, of LMA, BF, the whole system, I think is really helpful, because there's those moments when you're sitting there and you're going, I wonder what's really going on here. I wonder where we could go with this, you know? You can inquire, of course. People don't always offer the response that you need, but you can also just sort of go, okay, you know, maybe we need to explore some shape flow, directional shaping now. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Let's try it out and see. And so I think that it's helpful. And we're not teaching people the scales or anything, but we are offering them the experience of being in space in an embodied way through imagery, music, language, etc.
Karen, could you speak a little bit about, this is like away from this conversation, so let me know if that's not appropriate. Could you speak a little bit about breakout rooms and how to organize those? Someone had that.
Right, so somebody in charge would have the option of putting people into breakout rooms. I assume that's Curtis right now.
Although he's not going to, but it would be cool.
Could. So you click on the breakout rooms and you're just prompted. And
Oh,
you
okay.
say, I want 5 breakout rooms.
Oh, okay.
Zoom magic does the math
All right.
and randomly assigns people. Now you can also control that. You can also set it up ahead of time.
Perhaps Curtis could share his screen and show us how it's done.
Yeah, Curtis, you want to do that?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Real quick.
I don't know how.
Let's see. Here we go. Oh, now I can't see it.
It's like, help. Huh? Where did everybody go?
Can you see it? No?
Oh,
Curtis, I think you shared your desktop instead of the Zoom window.
Sometimes I use advanced share, and then you can like just share a portion. You can you get like a frame to put around. If you go into advanced share.
Yeah, because I noticed in my screen, it doesn't even have breakout rooms at the bottom, so.
If he made you co-host, you'd have it.
I thought I was co-host, but I don't have it. So.
You might have, right. Yeah.
I don't know why it's not. That's so
Showing
weird.
breakouts, yeah.
Yeah,
It depends on whether you set it up in advance. Did you click breakout rooms when you set it up?
No, I usually set it up after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not.
We were going to use it.
Only the host has
Oh, you know what? I think because I have a MacBook, I have to go into Apple settings and have to continuously give it access. Apple's really picky with their privacy. Let me check on that real quick.
Well, if we don't get there, it's at the bottom where it says, if you can see at the bottom where it says share screen.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, some other things down there. There's something there that says breakout rooms when you're the host.
Oh, okay.
You click on it and it gives you the prompts to break people up into breakout rooms.
Okay.
Then you need to set the amount of time that you want them to spend in the breakout room. And I have to say that please give people more than 10 minutes in the breakout rooms. I can't tell you the number of times it gets sent to a breakout room, and it takes people 5 minutes to figure it out. And it takes another 5 minutes for them to meet each other and talk to each other. And then you have to go back, and you haven't done any of the tasks that were assigned to you. So my rule of thumb is between 20 minutes and a half hour is enough time in a breakout room to get something done.
Okay, that's
and
good
to
to know.
report back. And you also want to have one person who does the sharing when you get back from the breakout room.
In the digital theater class that I took, one of the suggestions was, like in a theater movement class, was to give them an assignment to work on, and also to bounce around and visit each breakout room, and that they create some kind of movement performance in their breakout room, and then they come back and share that. And the way that you would do it is to put it on speaker view, so that you only see who's speaking, and they create a performance using speaker view. So that was an idea for a theater movement class that was shared.
And it's also easier for them to watch a video together, like two people watching a video together and talking in the breakout room, than it is to try to get everybody watching the same thing at the same time. So for teaching, you know, observation or movement analysis, I think breakout rooms are really helpful. And I've also sent two people into breakout room to coach each other, because they can see each other much more fully than I can.
Right. I'm remembering what Ted said last time. This might be a good time for your own stretching and moving. It's been almost an hour. So maybe you walk around your room, tapping, waking up a little bit, or not. You might be just fine where you are. Let's see, what's the best way? Best way. We're kind of moving into. Oh, we talked about a lot of this. Maybe we're done for today too. Ooh. Mm. I'm gonna green.
Hey, Tara.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a issue or a topic for today or for future sessions, but one thing I've noticed that is happening, particularly at the yoga studio where I take class, but also I know a lot of universities are talking about having half of your class, half of your students come live and half of your students will be on Zoom. And one thing I'd love to talk about is how do we attend to both audiences or both communities, so to speak. How do I have a class in front of me live, if that's the case, and simultaneously on Zoom, and make everybody feel like they're being attended to? I feel like that's really complicated.
Right, but that's a great question. I was just thinking about where we are and where we might go. And again, as I mentioned before, I'm just here as a kind of a facilitator. So your questions are what make the difference. This is a way of gathering for you. I think that's a great question, and it includes both nuts and bolts in philosophy. So if people find that interesting, I think that's or have had experience with that, I think it's fine to talk about this.
I just tried this yesterday for the first time.
Oh,
I had one person in the studio and one person online. I thought my head would explode, but I mean, you really have to become four-dimensional.
That's great, though. Yeah.
It is. It's great practice for whatever's in front of us. But to have my focus be here and here, so comprehensive, you know, I had to pretend that there were like 30 people here, but really I was attending to this and this, you know, and speaking to, you know, the ether, if you will, sometimes. It's really not easy, but I think that we have to become, we've been practicing the A and the B scales for a long time. Now we're putting them into practice, right? Now they're becoming practical. Now we know why we did that. Because this idea of transverseness, I think, is really, you know, you're not here, I'm not there, I'm transversing around. I just knocked my plug out. So I have no idea how the students are going to deal with this, because it's obviously weird. But I think that we have to model this anyway.
Well, they might have to get bigger also. The students' awareness and their capacity to relate also has to grow. So it includes the other person.
I think it also might be interesting to ask ourselves when we have to push back. And I think that dancers and movement practitioners are experts at adapting and thriving in situations that are not ideal. And I pride myself on being able to do that. But I think movers and moving practitioners are also transgressive. And I think sometimes because of our embodied experience, we are often the most skilled at pushing back in ways that are respectful and professional. If I was a student in that class, I would prefer to use that time doing my own personal work or reading or writing or reflecting on what it means to be in a movement-based class but not in the studio moving, as opposed to seeing my teacher have to negotiate the virtual and the real space.
I agree with you that pushing back is really important, and I'm horrified by what's being asked of faculty, and high school teachers in the States. I think it's abominable. But this was an option. This is the option of the people. It was their choice. So I'm trying to accommodate and learn and facilitate, because there wasn't, the other choice was to not do it. So I think that you're absolutely right, Natasha. We're really good at this and we're leading the way, but that doesn't mean that we should do things that are just unconscionable.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And sometimes we don't, you know, that's it seems like a very important, a personal and social issue, is to when to keep accommodating and when especially when the body says no, and to see what then happens in relationship to that. It's really important. Yeah, Donna.
Thoughts. So one was wondering if it might be useful to do more journaling and artwork in the embodied practices work than maybe people ordinarily do. That's one thing. And then the other thing in relation to Natasha's point, they could do one-on-one breakout rooms where one person's in person and the other one is online, so that there's an interaction. And you know, then the people who are in the class have to have a device in which they can do that, but that strikes me as a possible way of working, something to try.
Yeah.
So Lisa Wymore just posted something that's really.
So did Audrey.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, my video's not working.
It's okay. Speak up.
I just wanted to share that I've experienced with my students some really interesting interplay with a projection. A student of mine did this was for a performance, but I could see it working for a class. She was in a kind of a garage space, and she had a large projector of her collaborator, who was remote from a different part of the world, in her space. And I was watching remotely. But the large projection really enabled a really wonderful interaction between the in-person folks and the remote people. And I just could imagine it working in a class where you needed to have any remote people engaging with the in-person people feel a little more rich, a little more there in person, than using these little Zoom boxes and screens, these little screens. The projector just opens up potential. Of course, it is a piece of equipment, and you do need some space because it needs some room to kind of get a larger image going. But it's a nice way to bring remote people into an in-person setting. It was just something I'd share, and I've seen it work quite successfully.
Thank you.
I can share also, I have a colleague of mine who has been teaching online for months now in Ireland, and we're both in theater. And so what she often does is she'll record her voice, do snippets, and then suggest that her students go outside and listen so that they feel spatially in a larger space, that they're not always conducive into a single room. And then they'll come back to class, so she'll let them go out in the space, and then they come back, they go into the breakout rooms, and then they discuss what they experienced, what they embodied. But particularly for actors, I mean, we're creating another pattern of like moving forward with the chin, looking in that single pointed lens. I mean, that's for everybody. So that's her way of trying to negotiate that. So.
Interesting. And maybe some people who haven't shared yet, if there anything that has struck you or struck a chord with more questions or sharing of your own experience. I won't call on anybody. Yeah, Ted. Oh.
Thank you. The problems I've had have centered around how do I play music that the students can hear and move with me to the music. Does someone have a simple solution for that they could recommend?
Check out the videos that Karen gave, because there are some simple solutions within those.
Okay, I'll look for them.
Yeah, does anyone else want to just offer something right now that you found that works well, that's easy?
One of the things that Jonathan points out in this video is that everybody needs to remember the video and the audio are on different tracks, and they are always subject to discrepancies in video audio matching. It's usually episodic, it's short, where the video will freeze, but the audio will continue, and then they catch up. The more expensive the technology you use, the less likely that is to happen. But it also has to do with time of day, how many people are on Zoom at any one time. So bandwidth is a factor as well. But I'm not aware of any of the technologies where the video and the audio are on the same track. You're always approximating.
Okay.
I have heard that sometimes you might run an iPad and your computer, and let's say on the iPad you have the music. And probably if you run both things in the same room, you're going to have feedback problems. So that's the issue.
Ted, from teaching my Friday afternoon aerobics class, and this might be also in that video, but you have to go to share your screen, go to advanced, share sound only, and the sound has to come from your computer. It can't come from an external source. The music has to be coming from your computer.
And kind of jumping off what Jennifer just said, one thing that I was surprised about the first time I did that, use the advanced options, shared music from my computer, is how much I actually had to turn down the sound on my iTunes so that the students could hear my music and my voice cueing. I was amazed how far I had to turn that down. And so sometimes when you're doing that, it might be nice to connect with one student, just say, hey, tell me, or one or two students, tell me when you can hear me the most effectively, when you can hear my music and you can hear me speaking, and just really checking in with them, because you don't get that feedback as a teacher.
The wireless mic, Natasha, that's what I held up earlier. Well, it's a headset and a mic. So it has the mic inside of it. And that works good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? By the way, I'm not attached to going 2 hours because this feels like a lot of information. So we might end early. I don't know if that's okay with people. I sometimes I feel like, enough information is enough information.
I actually have a question.
Good.
Uh-oh, a lot of feedback here.
Oh, it's because you're on twice. We still
I know, but I can't get the camera to work here. There we go. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so my question is about security. Back to what Karen, I just wanted to clarify what Karen, you had said about not sharing or only sharing once people have registered. Did I understand that correctly? To make sure that people are, just how that works in a way that's safe.
Various levels, right? So when I'm teaching my class for the seniors, I don't make them enter a waiting room. I don't give them a password. It's too much. They just click on. But I'm not using my personal one either. I have it generate a new URL every time.
Oh, okay.
So because I don't want it to be shared, around or any of that. But you can set it up as I think Curtis did. You set this up so that we had to log in ahead of time and then get a private link to come in that we weren't to share. So there's different ways that you could set it up when you go into Zoom and set up your meeting. There's different privacy levels. And I know that they are requiring a waiting room and requiring a password as the default. And if you don't want that to happen, like I don't for my seniors, because that's too many steps for them, I have to click it to so that they don't have to use that. There's a lot more of that happening, layers and layers of security. And
But are you finding that even for your seniors, they're able to get through the hurdle of having a new link each time?
Absolutely. In fact,
okay.
It's better because I send it to them the night before or the day of. They don't have to.
I send it that day. I resend it. And Zoom has a thing where you go to the meeting and you add invitees, and I click on it so it copies the invitation, and I resend it to whoever who's in that day, because maybe they signed up a week ago and they lost the email, so I resend it that morning. And then some of where I've taken classes, they're sending it a half an hour before the class, so there's no problem of people coming in at the last minute.
Yes, I mean senior citizens.
Which has a broad, it's senior citizens are now like over 50. So I have a daughter who's a senior citizen. It's like, what? My children are senior citizens.
I think what this online work has done is going to change how we structure things. And I know, like, for instance, I was teaching a 3-hour workshop, and I just felt like it was a little too much on Zoom, so I broke the workshop in two. And then after the second half of the workshop, I started the workshop and I said, do you have any questions about last time? So it's kind of, and then it's kind of like you can say, oh, please go into this material and get into your practice, and then embodied it in a different way, and then they'll come back in a different experience.
Yeah, we're doing 2-hour classes with an hour break in between.
That's for your seniors, or that's limbs?
No, that's for some classes that we're planning to teach for limbs.
Oh, okay.
At Pratt, I have had one 4-hour class, and what seemed to work best was to break every hour for 10 minutes. Just to close down and walk away and come back after 10.
I've done some 1.5-hour classes that includes questions, and those have been fine. Bonnie Cohen is doing the 1.5 hours, and Susie Tortora does an 1.5 hours. And those seem to work. There's breakups in between some of that.
That's interesting. Susie's class was 2 hours when I did it.
Yeah, I think it's just 9 to 10:30. It's an 1.5 hours, an 1.5 hours, and then we have to meet one time outside of class for another hour. And the new Pilates training I'm doing is an 1.5 hour class with everyone together, and then a study group later on in the week where the teacher will be there and we'll have a project to work on in small groups. So there's a lot of that. Well, maybe, are we kind of done for today? We'll do a little movement thing to finish. Does this today feel sufficient? I don't want to push anyone away, but it feels like perhaps enough time. So I wonder, yeah, so Karen started something. So I thought maybe we'd each share a movement that everybody would do.
Just a moment, I have a question, please.
Oh, yes, okay, Helen.
There's 3 dots.
Will someone please remind me how to save the chat to my desktop?
Yes, if you go to the bottom of the chat, you see 3 little dots over on the side.
Yes.
Click on that.
Yeah.
The top thing should say Save Chat.
And then say Save Chat. Click on that.
And
Okay,
it
so you can see how developed I am in Zoom.
All right.
Yeah, I don't do anything in Zoom. And I'm here.
Always look for
amazing.
Always look for 3 dots and little arrows. All of the wisdom is behind the 3 dots or the little arrows.
That's good. Were you going to say something else before we do some moving and closing? Yes, Kim.
Yeah, Tara, I did just remember, just because things were coming up on the chat, I'm part of a Zoom group that meets once a week, and it's a pretty big group. So there's 40 of us, and we're actually an activist group. So it's not a movement class. But one thing that's been really great in that group, because there's so many of us and it's so important to get multiple voices being heard in the meeting, is we have a method for the chat group where if we put, and I'll just do it in the chat as I talk about it, if we put 1 asterisk, that means we have something to say that's going to change the topic. And if we put 2 asterisks, we have something we're going to say that's related to the topic that we're talking about. And so it's something that I know that I'm going to use in my fall semester when I'm teaching anatomy and kinesiology to help with group discussion, because it's quicker than typing everything out, and it gets people verbally talking. And so it's been nice. And then the facilitator can keep track of the order of that, so they make sure that they get to everyone in the order that they want to talk. So I thought I'd throw that out to people, that there are methods you could use in chat to help facilitate verbal dialogue in simple ways.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, that's great.
I just want to jump on what Cadence just said too. I know of about 4 or 5 CMAs teaching anatomy and kines this fall. I know lots of you are teaching movement for actors this fall and doing it online. And I'm just wondering if we might actually put together some groups to meet and help each other out with resources and ideas of how to do this online.
That sounds good.
So Curtis, in your spare time, why don't you take that on? But Cadence is doing it. I know 3 or 4 other people doing it. You know,
Yeah.
if you're teaching movement for actors or something, or if you're doing dance K-12, let's put together some groups to help each other out here.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, see you, and maybe you could do that. Good, that's good for Hillary. All right. Okay, so can we? I guess I'll start. So I'm just going to do a little movement and sound, and if you would just mirror me 3 times, we'll go around. I'll call people out because we don't know who's in. Thank you, and one more. Thank you, from me to you. All right, Karen. Nina. Oh, music, good. Ted. Thank you, Donna. Oh, yeah, you can unmute yourself, especially if you have sound. Oh. Curtis. Jennifer. Thank you. Sharon. Thank you, Helen. Okay. Shiyun, sorry. Oh, Siyun. Probably didn't pronounce it right. Siyun. No.
Yes, I was doing it.
Oh, I missed it. I couldn't see it. Oh. Thank you. So sorry.
Tara, you didn't. Tara Munji.
Oh, thank you. All right, Tara Munji. Well, people are in different places. All right, now I'm confused. We did Sharon, we did Helen. Carolyn. People did it again. I forgot it. Natasha, yes. Natasha, yeah.
Me.
That's you.
Brain, heart, world.
Let's do that again. Great, thank you. Judith. Hillary. Cadence. Emma. Audrey. She's outside. Oh, like your umbrella. And I think we can't see Lisa. Is that everybody who's left? I think so. Well, thank you all for your attention and information and coming. And what I'd like to hear from you. Perhaps this is good for a phrase and you don't need to meet for a while. We need to do other kinds of groups. I just, let me know what your thoughts about it, because you obviously are the people who are really interested and who are, oh, look, little kitty, who are able to come. And Curtis will send a recording to everyone. So because there's lots of great information here. And thank you so much for spending some time. And I'm really happy to have gotten to meet some new faces and have more information. And good luck, everyone. I have a very simple life right now.
Thank you much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep. Adios.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Vote. I'm just going to stick around for a minute.